Mr. Mancuso.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You've heard the word fund balance most of the night. Just so people who are not used to municipal accounting understand, fund balance is what they call surplus in regular accounting. And we do everything we possibly can to make sure that that fund balance is at the highest, or let's put it this way, the peak level that helps our situation here in Morris Township. But Fran, we thank you so very, very much for all the work you've done, and our representatives from Ms. Vacha, Ms. Dolan, and Mr. Johnson, we just thank you so very much. All our department heads, and especially the township committee people who have helped to put all of these numbers together. And of course, Ms. Johnson, who's stalwart on the finance committee. Just thank you so very much. Just a couple of thoughts. We always have followed the principle of zero-based budgeting. So just because, the state says they put a 2% cap, whenever we have people coming in from our different departments, they don't just increase last year's budget by 2%. We go, each of the department heads and each of the committee heads goes through the budget by line by line by line to be sure that everything we do is keeping within that zero-based budget area. We've had to replace 2 of our pools. We've had to do work on our sewer system over the past several years. And once again, this putting money away and being careful as to what we had to spend it on. The tax appeals, that's an area that you had spoken about that could be a spike. But we, Mr. Quinn, et cetera, in the Finance Committee, over the years, have put money away to be sure that these spikes are ameliorated, as they have been over the past several years. The thing that really is the most frosting is every dollar that we collect, we pay out 60% to the school district, 15% to the county, and we keep 25 cents. But on these tax appeals, as I've said so many times, we've got to pay out the full dollar. We had gotten 25 cents, and even on Wall Street, that's not the world's greatest trade in any situation. Again, we've upgraded the sewer systems. We've done all the resurfacing that we had. And one thing that happens is our state aid is $3.3 million, down from 4.8 or 4.9 million 9 years ago. In real dollars, that's cost us $11 million in Morris Township because of that reduction in the state aid. We've lost the $300,000, as Mr. Quinn said, from the recycling revenues. When we picked your garbage up, we sent it out to wherever it went. They put it on a boat, send it to a foreign country. They pay us a lot of money, and we made $300,000 a year in that. We only get about $25,000 a year now, so that's one of the things that happened. The increase in pension costs was very, very low this year, only about $50,000. We saved $75,000 in gasoline used for all the townships all the cars in the township. Our hotel fees, which is one of our great revenue sources, stayed the same at about $550,000 a year. And the one thing that's interesting is that the pair-off in our bond has worked out perfectly. We bonded $3 million more, and we paid off $3 million in old bonds. And through Mr. Quinn's leadership and going back to way, way back, we've always continued and tried to do that as often as we could. We're still paying off, I think we're still paying off Irene, aren't we, Tim?
Final year.
Final year. But, FEMA made tons of promises, and what we received back obviously never was the same. Saving $150,000 a year through the joint costs. And it's the first reduction that I know. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've asked around, and Mr. Quinn and I have checked. We cannot remember when the tax rate in our town or maybe any other town was lower. And so with the $45 that's coming from the Morris Township portion of the tax rate and the money that's coming in from the school district and a little bit from the county, we are going to reduce on every about $75 for every home valued at $560,000. And I think that's incredibly commendable. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Agreed. Thank you. A couple of things, and I just want to, I had a note here to comment on something that I want to piggyback on what Mr. Mancuso just said too, and everybody touched on. So if you remember back last year, if you were here, I talked about the fact that the county, although doing a very commendable job, were touting tax decreases. And we actually had a resident here say, hey, you know, how come we couldn't do that? So, I brought up the fact that, you know, we had the foresight, and a lot of that, you know, goes back to Mr. Mancuso, and we knew we were going to be burdened with these tax appeals to start squirreling away money. And we paid out in 5 years over $7 million in commercial tax appeals. Paid out. Of which, remember, about, well, of that $7 million that we paid out, 15% of that was the county money, but they already spent. And remember, I made a joke. I said, hey, what do we call the county freeholders? And I asked them to send us a check back for $1 million. You think we'd ever see it? And, you know, got a couple of giggles and laughs. Mr. O'Reilly, I think, remembers. So I said, you know what, we're never going to see that. And if the county had to share in the tax appeals, they wouldn't have had a tax decrease. And I also said, if we didn't have to squirrel away the money, which we had already squirreled away for, and just remember, and Mr. Quinn is smiling, I also said that if we didn't have to squirrel away the money, we'd be able to decrease taxes too. Deja vu all over again, here we are. We didn't have to squirrel away that money, we had squirreled it away, we had the foresight, and here we are. We're able to reduce taxes. And it really comes on, part of all of this, and I have to thank you know, Mr. Quinn, Francine, Valerie, Glenn, the Township Committee, especially Peter Louise, for having that foresight when we budget. You know, whether we know it or not, we're doing what we call a SWOT analysis, S-W-O-T. We look at our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats. And if you'll notice, every year at the end of the budget presentation, and sometimes I like to refer to it as the wet blanket, Mr. Quinn always talks about what our challenges are for next year. Always, every single year, right? That's the last page of the budget.
Already working on 17.
So, right, that's the threats part of the SWOT analysis. We're already looking at 17. We were looking a couple of years, we look a couple of years ahead all the time. We're constantly doing that SWOT analysis. And by doing that and squirreling away that money for the tax appeals, we're in a situation here where we had that foresight, and we did it a little bit every year where there was no major burden on the taxpayers over the last few years. And we're in a situation right now that's pretty good. Not pretty good, I'm sorry. Darn good, right? It's awesome. I don't think there was a time in modern day that, and as Mr. Mancuso said, that we were able to do this. Let me add another piece, a couple of pieces of color behind some of this as well. Mr. Quinn mentioned phase 3 of automated trash rolling out this year, and we're going to expand it into recycling. So let's talk a little bit about that. We've already started to see some efficiencies with the automated trash collection. We're rolling it out into recycling, and it's going to be all commingled recycling. So right now, we've obviously, we just didn't make this decision on a whim. We projected out costs and savings. Right now, we pay, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Quinn, about $1 million a year in tipping fees, correct?
On the trash, yes, sir.
On trash. Tipping fees are what, believe me, nobody's getting a tip. All right, tipping fees are what we pay for somebody to take our trash. About $1 million a year. So the thought process was by rolling out the automated trash on the recycling side, because we got to replace the trucks anyways. And we do it commingled, which means that in a similar type can that you have now for the automated trash, you're going to put in cans, bottles, newspaper, cardboard, everything in one can. We're going to make the same amount of money a year, which is virtually nothing, $30,000. But here's the thinking. If we can make recycling easier and get more people to recycle more, because we know a lot of trash that goes into the trash is actually recycled. If we can get recycling up by 10 or 15%, guess what gets reduced by 10 or 15%? Tipping fees. 15% on $1 million is 150 grand. Year over year over year. It will more not only than pay for it, we'll actually see, in addition to the efficiencies that we're getting, less manpower, workers' comp lowering because of less injuries, it's a no-brainer. It's a long-term solution to save some money. So I wanted to put a little color behind that. Swim pools, I know Tim talked about our swim pool reconstruction projects. Reopening, Streeter will open this summer. We have a marketing plan in place that is being worked on as we speak. You're going to see a lot of different activities at the pools. We have lights there at night. There's going to be adult events at night, evening dinners, poolside, since we have lights there. Food, bring your own. And there are going to be children's events, more children events at night. We're going to start to take advantage of those properties, and we've got a marketing plan that is being worked on and being put in place to drive some more revenue, to increase membership, and to get more use out of those properties now that they are completely lit, which they weren't before. If anybody went to the splash parties before the pools were redone, you'll remember our OEM group came there with portable lights that drowned out everything that could have been going on there, including the music and everything else. All you heard was the motors on the temporary lights. No temporary lights, now they're all permanent light fixtures in there. We can now start to utilize those properties in further detail. So, to sum up, everybody did a tremendous job. It's the year-over-year, looking forward-thinking planning that really put us in this situation. And I want to commend everybody up on this dais, Francine, Mr. Quinn. I know many, many countless hours here. And I want to thank you for your dedication. And of course, for Glenn and Valerie for taking on our account. And I want to thank you for all of your guidance and letting us know when we should be slapped upside the back of the head and say, no, you can't do that. so